So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for Handmade in Britain, the online interactive virtual craft fair. My name is Lucky, and we are being joined by Tamara Williams and Joy Leese of Rubikite Art and Scarves. They're going to be showing us some of their printmaking techniques using gypsum. So we're looking forward to seeing that. Now, as this is an interactive session, please do feel free to ask questions in the chat box provided, and we will get through to them during the show. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to you guys. So take it away.
Hi everyone, thanks very much for joining us. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, Joy and I are going to share some of our new work, and I'm going to be talking specifically about texture and printmaking with gypsum. I first started using gypsum, or plaster of Paris, as it's also known, a few years ago when I was experimenting with intaglio and relief printing plates. I needed a printing press, which I didn't have in the studio, and the nearest one was quite some way away. So I explored different transferal techniques and came across plaster as a good option. The first results were pretty disastrous, but I persevered, and after trial and many errors, I started to get some pretty exciting results, particularly the textures, which really come to life and are magnified massively on our silk and cashmere scarves. Each cast ends up as a small tile. This is a work in progress at the moment. I tend to work quite small. This piece is about 12 centimetres square. I think the largest I've created is about 30 centimetres square. Any larger than that, and the plaster tends to get quite fragile and it's quite volatile. So this is the optimum size. The first one that we'll show you is a relief printing plate. This is the original carving of our feather design. I use a lino that's very flexible, which actually helps pulling it out of the cast rather than one with a Hessian back. The original Agapanthus piece started off very small, as you can see here. And what's great about the relief prints, which is more evident on the printing proof that we've got here, is the three-dimensional qualities of the line work, because the plaster actually sinks in to all the carved marks, which creates some amazing textures which really do come to life on the large silks.
So I should just explain that Tamara and I have been friends for a long time, and when she first started doing her little works of art on the plaster, I really loved them, and I've worked in textiles all my life, and I just thought that we could take the designs and photograph them and really enlarge them and print them onto fabric, and it would look amazing. And I think I was proved right, because they do. So just from the Agapanthus, this was the result, and this is 130 centimetres square, printed onto sort of quite a lightweight silk, so it gives a nice floatiness and fluidity. And just with a little edging of silk chiffon, we just thought it really brought the whole print to light.
I think what's really interesting as well, especially for me, working so small, is when it is enlarged, you get these textures that come to life, and colours, separation of colours, that I didn't even know were there. When I mixed the colours originally in the ink, I put lots of different colours in a mix, white, pink, blue, whatever. But the natural heating process of the plaster starts to separate those colours out, which is unexpected, but they're happy mistakes.
So Tamara also showed you the feather etching and this relief print. And this was one of the pieces that we put on. And on this, we decided to put it onto a cashmere model. The modal gives it a lovely fluidity and drapiness, whilst obviously the cashmere makes it nice and warm and cozy. And so that shows you how the feather print works on this, but we've also played around with it with the digital printing and photography, really blew up the design, enlarged the design, and put it onto this really luxe silk satin. So it gives it quite a different look and feel, And I mean, I'm wearing a skinny scarf, and you can see how it translates.
The intaglio prints work in a really different way. So we have our tree design, which takes on one of those plates. This is actually one of the original plates that we use. And with intaglio printmaking, the ink sits on the surface, so you get some really lovely velvety, rich line work, which I'll then work back into once it's dried. And we've cropped into this in various ways to take it over a number of different sizes for the tree design.
So it's very interesting how the print comes out differently on the different fabrics. So we've printed this one onto a silk satin. It's a wonderful 90 by 90 centimetre square, and just with the highlight of the little silk border, really lifts it. This is one of my favourite scarves, and I wear it all the time. And so that's on the silk, and then we've also done it on the cashmere blend fabric. So it makes it much softer, feel, and very abstracted. And then with that sort of soft feel, we put it onto a cotton velvet for our little pouches, which again looks and feels so different, but works really well. And also we've done it on cushion.
I would say that what the plaster gives us in terms of quality to our work, three main things. First of all, textures. We've been through some of those. They're textures that I can wish to create if I was starting each piece from scratch. Secondly, the absorbent nature of the surface allows the colours to sink in, and they're not pale, they're quite rich, but they have a really lovely chalky light quality about them. And thirdly, the responsive nature of the plaster itself. What's really great about it is that after the inks dry or mixed media pieces dry, I can work back into it and scrape into it and carve into it and sand it back to its original form. This is particularly evident on our more contemporary mixed media pieces. Moorland was one that we launched last autumn, and this is a printing proof from the original plate. This is the original plaster plate, which is about 20 centimetres square. And the enlargement, you can see that I've worked back into it by scraping and sanding areas so that you get some really interesting textures and layers coming through, real tactile piece. And with the mixed media pieces, I'll work into them with acrylics, sometimes with collage, oil pastels, basically anything that I've got lying around.
So
Can I just jump in with a quick questions? We've got a few questions, so I wanted to just jump in quickly.
Yeah.
So we have a question asking, what are you doing to make your scarves more eco-conscious?
Several things. First of all, I would say that all the fabrics are natural, so the modals are wood pulp.
Modals are wood. Obviously, silk is one of the most sustainable fabrics. With the digital printing that we use, that uses a lot less water. The water consumption compared to normal screen printing is really minimal.
Azo-free dyes as well, non-toxic dyes we use. And this year we've worked really hard to become box free. So we've used any waste that we have, and we're real waste averse. Any waste that we do have, we've made into these little silk pouches.
We're now, instead of using gift boxes, we send out our scarves in these little pouches, which are made from waste fabric from the factory.
And actually, what's really great is you can see that it genuinely is waste fabric.
Yeah, they're all different.
They're all different.
How lovely, that's amazing. Another question, how do you manage to create images from the small originals which are good enough quality and not blurred?
That's all in the photography. So I've got a high resolution camera, or the ability to create a high resolution image, which I'll then crop and send to our printers so that we can create printing proofs. So before we do anything, we'll always create these printing proofs so I can check that the colour balance is correct, matching the original, but also the marks that are coming through, and I might change the crop once I see these. So good high resolution imagery. That's how we can.
And obviously our printers have the technology that once they receive the artwork, then they can feed that digital artwork into the printing machines to produce the much higher, larger scale designs.
Right, fascinating. And just one more quick question. What inspired your runners' pieces?
Oh, I have a Saluki called Mabel, and before that I had a lurcher called Alfie. So I've always had, I don't know whether anyone knows anything about Salukis, but they're greyhound-like dogs, and I absolutely adore them. So that's the inspiration behind that piece.
Okay, well, carry on with your demonstration. Sorry.
I think where we were
questions.
Sorry. I think where we were was talking about the abstracted marks from the little mixed media pieces, and we have 3 more contemporary mixed media colour stories. We have Moorland, Wildscape, which is the yellow piece here, and Seascape, and a new one which we'll share, which is a kind of work in progress at the moment, which is called Windswept, which is from this original.
So from the mixed media pieces, I'd just like to show you, they obviously look fabulous as scarves. So this is our Wildscape scarf, which we've, this one is our long silk, which is hand-rolled hems, nice floaty fabric. Obviously, as you can see, you get all the colours coming through. So when it's worn, you can just get loads of colour, and so they go with anything.
I think what's also really great is that probably shows it very well, that when each piece is cast, you get natural air bubbles forming in the plaster, which you shouldn't do really if you were being perfect about it. But I actually quite like the fact that the air bubbles, when they're enlarged, create really interesting textures and marks.
Yeah, yeah. And then the Seascape, which again has these beautiful colours, fabulous for summer. And this one is one of our smaller squares, which have done really well. They're really versatile because you can wear them around your neck, like Tamara's wearing a small square, but also they're big enough to wear as headscarves or headbands. And I did see on the Gucci website yesterday that there are people wrapping around their wrists to have them as sort of bracelets. And of course, there's the old way of just tying it around your handbag as well. But also on the mixed media, we think they work fantastically just with the colours on our little pouches. These we've printed onto a cotton sateen, and then just given that little pop of colour with the zip and tassels matching.
And we've taken some of the cushions as well.
Then also the scarf that I'm wearing is our Seascape, done as a skinny scarf in this beautiful luxe satin. One of our customers bought one of these the other day, and she said, "Oh, it's so beautiful. It's just like butter." It's just a shame that you really need to feel the fabrics to really appreciate how beautiful they are.
I think also what's worth mentioning with this is back to the earlier question about how you can keep the image sharp at such size. With this is so abstracted. You think it was taken from this tiny little piece here, and this is a sliver that's taken through one tiny section of it and enlarged massively. This isn't sharp at all. It's gone very, very smudgy, and the colours have blended into each other. Some of the line work is still there, but that actually adds to the whole overall effect of it.
Mm-hmm. And then, as Tamara mentioned earlier, I'm giving you the little preview of our new collection. This is our Windswept in the small square. And again, we've just added this little pop of colour edging, which is lovely on a hand-rolled edge. And we've got other things, other designs in work with this artwork. So a large silk square, which we found really popular. Plus, we're just doing a small amount of a new cotton silk long scarf. So really lovely for the summer. In the English summer, they're very rarely any evenings when you don't need something to wrap around your shoulders to keep you warm. So those are perfect, but also cotton silk would be absolutely fantastic to wear as a sarong on a Cornish, Norfolk,
An English
English
or a
beach,
Scottish
or
or
a Scottish
Welsh
beach.
Lovely.
And
Can
then,
I just jump in quickly again with the questions? I know we're pushing for time. So one person was asking, could you explain more about the printing process, what you guys go through?
so
The printing process, do they mean the actual plaster or the method of transferal?
I guess if you could explain a bit of both.
Okay, so the process of printmaking in plaster, I think I've kind of briefly touched on. After each piece is cast, I will then photograph it, and from there we get our printing proofs, whereby I'll check the crops, but I'll make any changes that I need to make. And then those are created as high resolution images and sent off to our printer. They will print a digital proof onto the fabric that Joy chooses and send that back so that we can test the colours and check that everything is as we want it. And then we have a very limited amount printed of each colour story. So we tend to print in very small batches of about 12, 15. Yeah.
so they're quite limited edition.
And the hand rolling of the edges is all done locally, and all the fringing is also done by the printers. So everything is kept pretty tight. The whole process, I would say, from beginning to end, takes about 8 to 10 weeks.
Right, okay. So we just had another guest just mention a bit more about that. So they wanted to specifically ask about more about the plaster incorporated in the process. How is that incorporated?
The plaster is the way that I work and create each of the original images. And I think we've talked about the qualities that the plaster then adds onto the silk and the cashmere, with the textures becoming more interesting and creating layers and the tactile finish that I wouldn't be able to create if I was just painting directly onto the silks or creating an image from scratch. So I think it's just about the layers and the quality that the plaster adds, which has become a narrative, I would say, across all of our work.
Wonderful. I'm sorry, you are very popular. So there's a few questions.
That's good to know. Thank you.
We want to show our runner's design though before we go.
So as Tamara is beautifully modelling, we've just also produced our little runner's design. And at the moment, we've just done some little pocket squares on a silk twill. So obviously these can be worn as neck scarves, but great for men to put in their pockets as well. And again, hand rolled edges with just this little border, contrast border, which adds a really nice touch. Also, for the first time, we're printing these with a traditional silk maker in England, which we're very excited about.
I'd also say that although this is probably the only design that we haven't cast in plaster, it retains all the perfect imperfections that we use throughout our work. So the original screen print, which is here, with all its kind of imperfections, we've literally used this, we haven't changed it, even down to the little kind of original smudge marks that are on there. So that's quite important for us, that each piece is true to its original form.
And I'll just show you the couple of little colourways that we did.
We don't often do that, but
no, we don't.
Have.
But we just thought.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Just another quick question. So we had someone asking, does the customer understand the value of hand-rolled edge as opposed to chiffon edge?
Well, when we originally started, we didn't have hand-rolled edges, and we did have some comments from customers that about the stitching. We just had the machine hemmed. The problem is, or was, for a design like this, if you machine hem the scarf, what colour do you hem it in? Because if you just did sort of red all round, it would show up on the cream. So really the advantage is you just don't see the hem with the hand rolling. We do feel when we've done the little chiffon edge round here, you can't see the stitching obviously, but it just frames that particular design, which we feel adds a nice contrast.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for answering all those questions. Just really quickly, we've come to the end of the session, but just to really quickly, what can we understand about the price ranges? How much are we looking at?
Okay, so varying price points. The large squares, which are our most expensive, they're 120. We then have the silk longs, and they are 90.
And the cashmere longs.
And the cashmere longs are also 90. We have the new size square, it's 90 centimetre square.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is 70. The silk longs are 50, I think, from memory.
Yes.
And the small squares are 55. So the new runners design is 55, and I think our Moreland small square is also 55 in the Wild Save and Seascape. And the little pouches are 25, so they're great for gifts and things. And our cushions are 55 for the larger size, and I think 50 for the smaller size.
Brilliant. You remembered all of them. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much to both you, Tamara, and to you, Joy. And thank you everyone for joining.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us.